Hello. So we'll continue with from where we left. We're talking about um, data and what if analysis, correct? So in what if analysis, we did goal seek yesterday, and we were doing the data table, right? So I was telling you that let's say this is the revenue for the year, okay, and this is our expected uh, growth rate. So total expected is this one, right? Okay. Um, now here, okay, we wanted to create um, different options. Okay, so see, this is for 9.1 fine, right? But I wanted to create, want to see what are the other, what happens if the growth rate is maybe 5%, 7%, right? So you can write this growth percent right here in column, and you can drag, of course, right? So it's from 7 to 15.5 is what we have here. This is your growth rate. Now against each of these, we need to find the total expected value against each of these. Okay. Now, of course, one way is that you manually calculate it. Second way is you use data table. How do we use data table is, these are the input values, okay? And what formula do you want to have here? So we have already calculated this, right? So we want this formula, the total expected formula, right? So you click here. So you get this one here, right? Now, so I want the total formula, total value, which is based on this formula for this input, right? Here, I want total value, okay, this one, this formula for this percentage, okay? So this is how data table is created. And now I'm going to select this entire rows and column for which I want data, and I go and click on data table, right? Now see here. So here you have row input cell and column input cell. Okay. Row input cell is when you are inputting data in single row, right? But here our input data is in row or column. Our input data is in row or column.
It's in row, right?
Our data is in column, right? This is one single column, isn't it? Our input data is percentage, growth rate, right? Our input data is growth rate, and growth rate
Yeah, okay, got it. Yes,
is in
yes. Column.
column. Yes, right,
I'm thinking that the total expected one. I'm thinking. Okay.
right, right. So so total expected is output that we want, right? We want the output. This is what we want, correct? So this is not your input. This is your output. Input is these, right? For 7, if input is 7%, then what is the output? If input is 7.5, then what is the output? If input is 11, then what is the output? Correct? So this is your input, and this is in column. So I will go and I will say this column is this one. So column is based on this value. Okay. And I say, okay, that's it. Automatically, it will calculate for each of these values. Same formula. This looks a little bit odd, right? Okay. Okay. Let's do it little later. So this looks odd. So I wanted to hide it, but I'll do one more step and then I will hide it. Okay. So this is how you can, with a couple of clicks, your entire data will be filled in. So this is total expected. Now, yeah, of course, you can make this all as currency. So I'll go here and I'll say uh, not rupee, but dollar, right? And I'll remove the brackets. Okay. So this all became dollar. Now I can't delete a value from here. You can't delete a single value from data table. If you want, you have to delete everything. Okay. Now let's say this is the total expected, isn't it? Now let's say additional revenue. What is the additional revenue you're getting, right? Or revenue growth. Additional revenue is simply this into this, right? This is the actual growth. That's why if you add this and this, revenue and growth, you get total expected, right? So you can have multiple values that you can show. So maybe what I'll do is here, I will talk about revenue growth. So I'll say additional revenue. And here I will say total expected, right? So maybe here I'm going to say revenue growth, and this is your total expected. Okay, total revenue, total expected revenue. Okay, so let's say, okay, now this is a formula that I have linked. So this is I want the calculations to be based on this value. So you have to do first one calculation, right? First you have to do one calculation. Then you say, okay, based on this formula, I want to generate all the values. Based on this formula, I want to generate all these values. So that's why it is important to maintain that formula. So I'm not adding manual value, but I am linking it to the formula there, right? Okay, by changing the percentage, right? So now I need to select this entire this thing. Okay, selection is also important. I cannot select from here or from here. Selection has to be done from here itself so that it knows, okay, first column is the values that you want to input, and second, third column is a formula. That's how it knows which formula to apply in which cell or which row or which column. Okay, then again you go to data and say data table. Okay, here again I need to change this column value, right? So I'll say 9.1%. Done. You got the value here. Now to check, if I do this minus this, right, you'll get 30 million, right? So you'll get all 30 million, right? That's to check that if value has been done correctly or not, right? So it has correctly calculated. Yes, did you get it? And okay, I was saying that this is not relevant, right? So what you can do is right click here and go to format cells, okay? And you click on custom, okay? And in custom, you give three semicolon, okay? The moment you give three semicolon and say, okay, gone, data is hidden. So it is linked, but it is hidden, right? So it doesn't look odd, like what is this number, right? So yes, so this is how you can present your analysis, saying that, you know. Any questions so far? All good? Say yes, no.
Yes, it's good.
Perfect. Now there is one more additional property to this. Okay. Now let's say what I have done is based on one single value, which is $30 million. Correct? If the revenue is $30 million, then follow all this process. Instead, let's say if you have to do for 5 different companies, or let's say company has 5 different business divisions, and you have to do it for all the 5 different business division, right? So you will say here, let's say we put growth rate here itself in column itself. So so I'm going to say here, I'll copy this better. If anyway it's same, so let me copy it, right? And here I'm going to say division 1, right? Or you can say here your stationery division, right? This is your grocery division of a retail company. Okay, stationery, grocery, um, um, fashion accessories. Okay, you have clothing, right? We have hard lines or electronics, let's say. Okay, so you have different business divisions. Okay, and okay, and let's say the revenue for stationery is $9 million. Okay, for grocery is $19 million. 1, 2, 3. Fashion is 25. Clothing is 30. Electronics is 50. Okay. So now we'll do this. Format cells. Currency. Okay. We'll select. Okay. Okay, so this is taken 2 values, right? We want 3 values, sorry. We want after 3 values. I don't know, in Australia they use only 2 values, not sure. Let's take US. Mhm. This is also taking 2 values. See, 1000 is fine. After 1000, it's taking double values. It should be 3 values. So currency. Okay. If I give one more hash, then what happens? No effect. I need to modify it. Okay, let me try one more time. This is not how it should be, right? Hmm. Here, this is this. This is also 2 dimensions. All these are 2 places. No, this is not what we want. Is it because local is India? If I change it to okay, let's do it later. Okay, let's focus on this. What we are trying to do here. I don't know why it's taking only 2. It should be 3 decimal places. If I click here, it's still taking. Okay, fine. Okay, so we have found. Okay, so this is the revenue of each division, and we want to predict the growth rate, right? So here you can only do one. We can't do like total revenue or additional revenue, right? So we'll do total expected. Okay. So for doing total expected, this is where you write the formula. Total expected is this. So this is the formula which I want to copy and paste, or which I want to copy and apply, right? Not paste, but apply it to all of these. So you go and select this entire cells, okay? Then you go to data and click on what if analysis, and you have data table, right? Now here you have data on both row and column, right? So that's why we have to select both row and column. In your row, okay, this is row, right? It's all the values are in same row. This is our row. So when we go in row, okay, we are looking at this one. This is the actual revenue, right? In this formula, the input for row comes from here. So we go and click here, B2. Okay, in this formula, okay, the column values are supposed to replace this. And you say, okay, oops, table B2, B3. Is it because of the currency? I don't think so. Wait. So this is the formula. Okay. Um, data, what if, data table. Okay. The row input, oops, sorry. I was not supposed to delete this, right? Let me write something. No. Okay. Right. And now when I go and select this, so I'm going to go to what if data table. Okay. The inputs, row input comes from here. And the column input comes from here. Yes. Correct. And now if I give, no, I'm selecting the wrong one. See, it's changing here also, right? Sorry. Oops. Wait. My selection is wrong. Okay. I'm selecting wrong cells. Okay. So if I select this, okay, and or if I select this rather, okay, now I go to data table, okay, by input cell, okay, row is this, column is this, okay. Okay, so remove this growth. This is what it was taking, right? So this one should be here. Let me remove it. Okay. Now let's go and do it. Because it took the formula from here, right? So it should be here. Okay, no, not go. Okay, so input is revenue and column input is your interest rate. Yeah, now you see. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we were selecting the wrong range, right? Now you see. So this is your 30,000. This is your input, right? 30,000, 40,000, right? So this is calculated as 30 into 7%. Okay, so you have multiple revenues and multiple growth rate, and each of these values is, so you know, it's a credit table. Now I want to know if my revenue is 60,000 and growth rate is 12%, how much am I expecting, right? If growth rate is 12 here, right? And 60,000 is this one. So this is your answer, right? With growth rate 12% and revenue is 60,000, this is what you get. Okay, so this is how we end up getting the data table for both row and column. We call it as two variable data table. Okay, is it fine? You want to do it again? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes,
let's take some other number. Okay, let's take your total input cost. Okay, your total input cost is or let's say quantity. Let's say I take quantity. Your quantity is, let's say, 100. Okay, and your price is, let's say, $30, right? So your total cost is going to be into 100. $30 into 100. What is happening here? Let me take normal cell, or let me convert it into, maybe it's not reading as a number. Yeah, see, you have to make it currency and then it will work. So let's take rupee. Okay, it's the first one. So okay, format cells currency rupee. Okay, and I delete it and I say 30. Oops, quantity is 100 and value is 30. Okay, so you get 3,000. Okay, I'm going to say format paint, we'll do it here. So 3,000, total cost is 3,000. Okay, now I want to see, okay, what happens if my cost is 30 or maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, right? So I'm going to copy this here, and this time I'm going to do, I'll put it in the row. Okay, different. Let's say 10. And then I'm going to say 20, 30, 40. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and I'm going to drag it. Okay. Okay. So these are your rupees, right? Now, how do we arrive at the total cost? Right? So we arrived at total cost as 3,000 here. Correct? Total cost is, sorry. Okay, just give me a second. Okay. So total cost is 3,000, right? Now I want to figure out if my cost changes to 10, what happens? 20, what happens? 30, what happens? So I'm going to select this. Okay. Go to data table. What if analysis, data table. Now you see here, I want to change the input value, right? And see the effect of this. Okay. So here column will be empty and row I need to add. Row, I will add this rupee price. And I say, okay. So you see what happened? Now I'm going to format this. Right? So if it is 10, this is your total cost. 20, this is total cost. 30, this is total cost, right? And if you want to hide this, you can right click, say format cells, and custom. That's it, hidden. So this is what you can get it, right? Now let's say I want to do it for different quantity, right? So I'm going to copy this cost here. So cost is fine. What if my quantities are different, right? So quantities could be 50, could be 100, could be 150, could be 200, right? And then I drag this down to say 1,000, right? So in this case, formula, what is the formula? Formula is 3,000, right? So this is the formula which I need to apply for rest of this table, right? I click as data, what if, data table. Okay, so what is row input? What is column input? Tell me.
No row input, sir.
No, we have row input, right? This is in a row, your currency, right? Price is in
Yeah,
row.
right.
So here you will have price, which is B2.
B2.
And what is your column input? Quantity, B1. You say, okay. So this is what you will get. And of course, you can format paint and you can do this. Okay, so if your cost is 10 and quantity is 50, this is your total cost. Okay, if the cost is 20 and your quantity that you want to produce is 250, this is your cost. All the logic that you have to build it here. Okay, so this is just pointing to this, and then you can build this entire table. Clear? So in this case, we have one more thing, okay, which is your where is data? It's called scenario manager. Okay. Okay, what happens to scenario manager? So this is my quantity and price, isn't it? So I go here and I want to create various scenarios. So go to scenario manager. Okay, this is how you will get a scenario manager. You have to add different scenarios. Okay, so I'm going to say scenario name S1. Okay, I'll just give S1. So scenario name S1 by changing which cell. Okay, so I want to create scenario 1 by changing quantity B1. Okay, and I say okay. So it says B1, what is the new value that you want? Old value is 100. What is the new value you want? I want new value to be 200. Okay, so if you want to add more scenarios, you keep adding. Okay, add scenario S2. Okay, by changing this time I want to change B3. Okay, it's always better that in one scenario you change only one cell. Okay, If you want to change other, you create a different scenario. So again, B1, okay. And this time, what do you want the value to be? I want value to be 500. Again, I said, okay, right? So see here. Again, you have add, delete, edit. If you want to edit it, you can edit it. If you want to delete, you can delete it. If you want to add, you can add one more. So I'm going to say S3 by changing B1. Okay, new value I want it to be 1000, let's say. I say okay. Right? So I have created 3 scenarios. If you want to see the output of one scenario, click on show. So if you say show here, see the value got changed here. You see, S3 is 1000, right? So 1000 into 30, you got 30,000. I click on S2, I say show, it will convert into, see, it is now 500, it's showing you here. But you want to see all the 3 together, then say summary. If you click on summary, it will create a new sheet actually, okay? So create a new sheet. Okay, now you see. It's saying that if you are changing cells B1, current value is 500. This is what we clicked on, right? Before summary, that was the show. S1, S2. S1 is about 200, S2 is 500, S3. Okay, and since we had clicked on the, we clicked, where is this data? Sheet 5, right? We clicked here, so it picked this one. If we had clicked here, we would have got only one row, which is for $30 or 30 rupees. So it will create this scenario, entire set of values will be created. Right? So it has created this good looking table with all the values here. Yes? So that's how your scenario manager works. Right? So we have covered almost everything in Excel that you need to know. What we'll do now is we will not solve the assignment problem. We'll solve some other problems very similar to assignment. I have one more exercise. We'll solve that. And similarly, you can solve the assignment problem also. Okay. So let me pull up the problem here. Any questions so far? All good? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Talking about the assignment, right? It's called life expectancy. Okay, now you should be able to see my screen. No. This is not working. But we can perform a lot of this. We'll do this when we do Power BI and Tableau, okay? Sorry, I wanted some other table, wait. It does say this, but I don't, yeah, no, I have it. Okay, you see this Word document, right? This is very similar to what I've already shared with you. Okay. Now, this is what, the business guys will ask you. What is the total number of termination in 2020? Okay. calculate the 2021 projected termination if the average rate is 7%. Okay, and typically your business team would come to you with such questions. Okay, now you have to think, what formula should I apply, right? So I don't have it open. 1 second. Pause. Okay, this is the data set. Okay, so the question is, how many terminations, okay, did you see here? So yeah, total termination. How do I calculate total termination? So each of these are your termination. Either they have been retired, okay, or you can create a filter on this and you can see the unique values. Okay, so I'm going to say data and filter. Okay, if you say filter, you can see here. So see, layoff, resignation, retirement. So total number of people that left the company that year are these many, and okay, it's either they were laid off, or they resigned, or they retired. Okay, based on the age, they retired from the company. Okay, so I say okay here. Okay, I can go back and remove the filter. Okay, so this is your total people who have left the company. So how do I find total count? Sum? But this is a text data, right? How do I find sum? Right? I can't find sum. So I have to do count.
Yeah.
Count of the range I have to give here, right? So I'll select and I'll drag it
Yeah.
till the end.
L1486.
Yes. So you get 0. Where did we get 0? We did yesterday only.
Total termination, yeah.
Okay. See, we got 0 because the values are not numbers. Okay. If you have number, it will count. So one option is you do count on a column which has number, or you go and you say NA.
Counting. Okay.
Oops, not NA. Okay. Count NA will ignore the NA values. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If I say count NA, okay. If I say count NA, it is going to ignore, let's say, okay, let's go here, and this is your number I, correct? Okay, I could have simply changed it to I. Okay, so I'll say count, and sheet 1, I'll say I2 to I1486. So you get 1485, correct? But let's say if one data here, 35, remove 35, I put blank. Then it says 84, right? Which is not right, isn't it? Because it is 84 only. Correct? Total value is 85. Just because one value is missing doesn't mean that total values in the table is 84. See, total values in this column is 1484. But total values is 1485 only. So in this case, you will say NA. Okay. Count. Okay. So see here. So instead of count, let me do len. Okay. So what did len do? It gave us two values. Okay. Because length will give you maximum how many characters are there. So if you have here 119, then okay, then also it is 2 only, right? Len generally looks at the specific value here. So if I just say, so I am saying I2, right? I2, but if I say I3, if you change it to I3, right? So now you get 3 here, correct? So it will just look at the number of characters in that cell. But what is our aim? Our aim here, okay, is to calculate this termination. Okay, let's make it 35. Calculate termination and include text data, right? So termination is in L. So I go here, I give L 3, 2, okay, or let's do it again. Count this one. Or you can do shift control end. It will directly take you to the end part. Okay. Shift control end will take you to the last row. Okay. And I close it, right? So I just said count will only count the numeric data, right? Like the other column when we created, it gave us the value. If you want to count the text data, you have to say count if, count condition, count if. Now count if takes two values, range and criteria. Okay. So what is range? Range is this. Range is correct. What is criteria? Criteria is I want to read all the characters. Okay. So you give this star. It's called while character, right? You see, it has read all the values. And this is what you can do when you have NA or blank also. Because NA or blank is not a number. So count will not work there. You have to use count if. Okay. So count if to calculate your non-numeric column, and count if is we need the value and also we need the condition. So what is the condition? Condition is
Star. I mean, all.
while character. Yes, star. Star implies all strings. So this you get 1484. So this is how you can calculate on a string column and get this value. Okay. So this is your total termination in 2020. Was there a question?
Yeah,
Now,
the
how
asterisk represents the empty numbers and the like. I mean, can you
yes,
come again with that?
correct.
Reflects
So-
empty cells and non-empty cells, like both it will.
Correct. Star means any number of character. Even 0 character is also included here.
And also blank cell, like.
Yes. Blank cell means no character, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
So
okay,
star
that
would
was
include,
correct.
yes. And then you have
Okay.
question mark. Question mark means at least one character.
Okay.
Okay. So star
Got it.
will read even if it is blank. Yes. Okay. 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 So next is projected termination. So see here it is growth rate is 70%, 7%. It says what is the total termination 2021. It's not asking how many additional termination will happen, right? So in this case, we have to do total. So we have to say this number plus 7% of this number. Correct? C4 plus C7 into C4. C7 into C4 is the additional termination. Plus last year will be total termination. Now you hit enter. This is your value. So in 2021, we project about 1,589 people will leave the organization. Right? Now see here. For each of this projection, we have to find the value. Right? So one option is you delete this text and you point it to 1589. Correct? But since this header is already given, we cannot use the data table. But what I'll do is I'll create parallel table just to demonstrate. Okay, I'll create a parallel table here, and we'll do data table here, and we'll do without data table there. So here I'm going to use data table, and here I'm going to use without data table. So what if analysis, data table. Okay, in this case, what should I change? Input or row input or column input or both?
Column input.
Column input.
Column input, exactly. Perfect. Okay, so column input is this value, right? Say okay. So we got for each of these percentages, right? Now let's try to solve it without data table. So here, okay, see, this is total termination, right? So how do we get total termination? We say total termination is total termination plus percentage into total termination, right? Now in this case, if you see, C4 needs to be fixed because I'm going to copy the formula down. So C4 needs to be fixed, correct? But B12 need not be fixed because we want B12 to change. As we go down, B12 will become B13, B14, B15, and that's what we want. So I'm going to say function F4 or F4 or $. So this is how I'm fixing both C4 here. And now if you double click on it, you get these values, right? Now you compare 15.4, okay, 17.44, 26 is the same thing, right? So you can do like with formula based also or data table also. Yes? Any questions so far? Of course, see, termination cannot be in percent. You cannot say that, okay, next year 15.5 people will go, right? So it's always better to remove decimal point from number. So you have to look at the thing. Human being cannot be half, right? Okay, you cannot say half day or human being can be half, right? So how many days will you come to office? You can say 4.5. I mean, if you're coming to office itself is considered as one. So in such, depending upon the business problem, you have to, okay, decide how many decimal point you have to add. For example, if they say currency cannot have 3 decimal places. You can have maximum 2 decimal places, isn't it? So you have to, format the data based on the problem. So here we're asking about how many people, right? So how many people we cannot have points, right? So you need to format it, right? Okay. Now, what would be the projected termination if they expected to grow at 4.5? Okay. So we are expected to grow at 4.5, right? So what will be the expected termination? You say VLOOKUP, right? This is what we did. Look up what? Look up this value. Look up this value in which table array? This table array. Okay. Which value to print? Second value to print, right? So this is second value. Of course, we can leave it here. We don't want false, right? We don't want approximate match. We want exact match. right? So false or you leave it blank. So see, you get 1551 and we'll comment it. We'll remove the decimal place. So 4.5 is 1552. So this is how you can answer this. What will be the projected termination if it is going to grow at right? Okay. So this is how you can do it. All clear so far? So should
Sir.
it be count or sum? You have to decide based on the question mark. Sometimes you have to use in banca sales, it would be sum, not count. Because you want to count the values, revenue. But in this case, we are counting how many rows are there, count. Okay, so that's why I have to decide, okay, which formula to use, whether average, count, sum, you have to be careful about that. Okay, now coming to this one, okay, total termination type. Okay, so what are the different termination type? So I told you termination type, you go and put filter and you will get the values, right? So it is resignation, layoff, and retirement, right? So I'm going to copy resignation, layoff, and next one is retirement. You can filter and get the data, right? So, okay. Now count, obviously count, but if I say count, I will get all the values, right? So if I say count if, right? And I go and give the range here. Right? So you can say shift control down arrow key. Shift control down arrow key will take you directly to the last row. And shift control up key will take you to the first row. So I've already reached to the last row. So count if, then the criteria. Criteria star means all. But in this case, okay, let me put star first. Okay, but in this case, criteria is not star, but criteria is resignation, right? So I'm going to delete this and put resignation here. So see, you got 385. 385 is the resignation. Now for layoff, if I copy and paste, what will happen? Even L2 will move down. L2 will become L3. 86 will become 87. We are moving down, right? So all the values will move down, with respect to its position, right? But we don't want to move L2 and 486, right? So I'll put, yes, I'll
Production
fix
type.
it. Yes. I'll leave B34 as it is because I want it to move down.
No, no. So 34. Yes.
Yeah. So this is
Count
what.
means the number, like number of people resignate. Okay.
Yeah. And this number total should be same as your 1485, correct? Total. And this has to be same. Which is highest?
The max value, max of
Max value, yes.
max function will use and we'll get the highest in those three. Like we need to give the range.
Correct.
Okay. The max is layoff one. That means like 7 or 8 we need to get.
Correct. So yeah. So max is this, or you can say max of
B34
these
to
three values.
CC. Yes, yes.
Right? And how do I get termination type here? Is there a formula? See, we cannot use VLOOKUP here. Why we can't use VLOOKUP? We are looking for 708, right? Lookup value will be this. What we said is the column values should have been taken on the right side. Then we could have used VLOOKUP. If this was on this side, okay, then we can clearly
Yes,
use VLOOKUp.
yes, got it. From second onwards, it will look, you said, right? VLOOKUP
right?
means.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And
Okay.
I'll say this and column ID 2. So you get layoff. Okay.
Okay.
But
But
in
what
this,
in case if friend is there, like,
correct. So that's what I'm saying. So we can't use VLOOKUP.
okay.
One option
Yeah.
is you create one row here. Okay.
Mm,
That's okay. You can create one row here. Okay.
okay.
Second option is we can use if. Correct. So if this value is same as this value,
Okay.
then we'll print
then,
this.
yes.
Else, else I'm writing again another if this value is equal to this value, if this value is equal to this value, then print this. Else, obviously we have no other thing, right? So default it will be this. One more bracket.
Okay.
So you get this.
If like multiple ifs, okay.
Yeah,
By comparing the values, I
correct.
mean the cells.
Yes. If this, then this. If this, then this. If this,
Okay.
then this. And else, so let's say if you want to check one more conditions, you can do that. Okay. Okay. Instead of B36, I can write one more.
Not
If
only equal to, we can do like greater than, less than,
this,
anything like
no,
different
no. Equal to, right? It has to be equal
But
to.
now equal to, I mean saying
Ha.
it depends on
Obviously,
requirement,
yes.
we can.
Yes. If this is equal to this, then retirement, else you say value not found. Right? So, for example, here, let's say you get 710. So you say value not found, right? Because none of these things match. So you get value not found. But here, of course, it is max of this. So you get this one here. Okay. Now what is F and G? It is here in the document. F. Okay. So yes, then you can, based on this calculation, you can say, okay, this is the answer, this is the answer. Which one is the highest? Layoff 708, correct? Brightness is thinking of introducing categorization of contract terminations. If termination was a retirement or resignation, then it's a voluntary termination. If it was a layoff, then it is an involuntary termination. So they want to, create one more new column. Okay, a new column is based on the old column. Okay, a new column is based on the old column. Okay, then and if it is retirement or retirement or resignation, it is voluntary. Else, so if else, right? Simple if else. So if you go here, it's called term type or something, right? Term type. This is the one talking about, right? So if this one is equal to layoff, then it is involuntary. Involuntary, correct? Otherwise, voluntary. Okay, we don't have to check. Okay, apart from layoff, whatever it is involuntary, right? So there's no such formula here. Only L2 is there, which we want to change. We just double click on it. Okay, so you can go and check for layoff. It is involuntary, right? Retirement is voluntary. Okay. Resignation is voluntary. Correct? Simple. You got it? Okay. Now next is, what percentage of total terminations were voluntary? What percentage of total terminations were voluntary? FB. FB. Okay. Total terminations. So we know what it is, right? We can directly link it to the first value. Or if you want, you can do it again. Okay. Total voluntary termination. So see, this is how we calculated resignation, right? So what we'll do is we'll copy this. Okay. And here we will say, instead of B34, we will say, instead of star, okay, we will give this value, right? What is the value here? It says voluntary, correct? So voluntary. Oops, what happened? Am I counting wrong location? Yes, it's not I, right? It's something else. It is M. So I need to go and change this column to M. Okay, so you got 777 here. Percentage would be 777 by 1485, and you can say percentage sign. Okay, you can have, so it's about 52.3%. Make sense? Then G is what? Okay, here we have three conditions. It's again if, just that we have longer condition. If the employee has served for 5 years or less than newcomer, between 6 and 10 proficient, more than 10 expert, right? So I can go. So you can choose. So when you are doing this, right, choose which is easier to implement. Now, for example, okay, in voluntary or non-voluntary itself, I could have said if L2 equal to resignation, or I had to use or. Okay, L2 equal to retirement, voluntary, else involuntary. But instead of doing two condition check, I'm managing with just one condition check, layoff. But default it is voluntary. Similarly here, we have three conditions: less than 5, between 6 and 10, and more than 10. So less than 5, okay, fine, one condition. More than 10 is one condition. But 6 and 10, you have to do and. More than 5 and less than 6. That's between 6 and 10, right? More than 5 means 6, and less than equal to 10. So instead of doing and, I'll do this. I'll check if age is length of service. If length of service is less than equal to 5, correct? That's what it says. If less than equal to 5 and more than 6 to 10 is whatever, right? I forgot what's the name. Proficient something, correct? So if D2 is less than 5, then it's saying newcomer, add newcomer. Okay. Okay. Else, again, I'll put a if condition. D2 greater than equal to 10. Then I'll say expert. Else, you say proficient. So I'm not checking 6 to 10 because that means I will have to check two conditions, isn't it? It's checking one condition is easier than checking two conditions. So you have to design that way. And again, double click. You see, all these are expert, 6 is proficient, 5 is newcomer. Right? So we have done all of these.
This is same like in before assignment you gave something.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. That's why I wanted you to do
Question.
one in the class. Yeah, and then solve it. Other one, Banka cell, you solve it.
Yeah, the G1. Okay.
Right.
Yes, Swapnil got it.